Joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show is Joe Davis. Goosebumps. Unbelievable, Joe.
Rich, thank you. Yeah, oh my gosh, man, it was so much fun. Okay, so selfishly,
Yes.
I was like, he has to do it today because I was leaving after the game for NFL.
Yep.
I'm thinking, oh, what a bummer this is going to be. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, as the game's going on, he gets his 50th steal in the first inning. I'm thinking, okay, he can't homer. My only chance now, because there's no way he's going to hit 2 home runs today, right? My only chance is that he leaves here with 48. They kind of pitch around him this weekend, and then I'm back next Tuesday, can do it then. And then he hits 49. I'm like, oh, man, it's not. But Shohei Ohtani, just unreal. As fun of a day as I've had in my career.
And it sounded it looked it, and then he hits 51 later on, right? And the stat that leapt out at me is 10 or more runs batted in, 6 for 6 hits in the game, 5 extra base hits, 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases. Since the runs batted in stat existed in 1920, there have been players who have had at least one of those games in their career, right? But nobody's ever had one of those games, all of those games in their entire career. Yeah. And Ohtani did it in one day yesterday in establishing the 50-50 club. I've never seen anything like it. I've never heard anything like it. And for you to be sitting there, I am not surprised to hear that that's one of the greatest days of your career, Joe. Unreal.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? And we talked about this on the broadcast. He could have had this day in mid-May, and it still would have been one you could argue is the greatest individual day in baseball history. But he did it to get 50-50 and to punch his first ticket to the postseason. All rolled into one day. Like he continues to do things that if you were to roll this out pitch this as a Hollywood script, it'd get turned away because it's unbelievable. Like this stuff doesn't happen. Like, nobody's going to believe that. It's a stupid script. Too unbelievable. And he does this frequently where it's like there's no chance something like this happens. He continues to defy the odds in every way.
Yeah, and he could have hit for the cycle, too. That was the only thing missing. He got thrown out at third.
Right. Yeah, he's maybe on home run 51, he should have intentionally missed third. Have him make sure they appeal back there, triple, get a cycle in there, just kind of the gravy on top.
Unbelievable. What, again, I don't know how much interaction you have with the guy, and whatever you do have, if you can roll it into this answer, is how is he able to just not feel pressure? Because he looks like, again, when I watch him play, the only equivalent I could see of anybody I've ever seen is Roger Federer, right? Where he never sweat. You never saw Roger Federer sweat. Like, literally, even when he's in a 5th set, it's damn near 4 hours on the court, and you never saw him literally sweat or figuratively sweat. And like, look at this shot right here. He's not even sweating. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what is it with him, Joe? You know,
there's still, even though I'm around him every day, there still is this mystery, this mystique about him. Part of that is the language barrier. Even though he speaks great English, there is that little bit that keeps you from getting too close to him or feeling like you understand him completely. So it's hard to totally get behind the psychology for me. I'm sure there are people that feel like they can answer that better. What I would say, just my own opinion, the work that he puts in, and all these guys, right? All these professional athletes put in work, but his seems to be at a whole nother level of methodical and measured, and to the point where I would think when he gets into the game, when you combine his natural ability with that intentional practice that he does every day and has done every day for most of his life, you get just this unshakable confidence and a dry brow every night. You get him just not sweating. I can't wait to watch him in the postseason, not just as the Dodger guy, even more than that. I can't wait to watch him in the postseason as a baseball fan and to have America get to see this guy on the very biggest stage for the first time.
Rhino, your management at Fox, I mean, I don't know if Shanks has got like a hope chest or anything like that, but,
Yeah.
With all due respect, and I know you can't say it because it doesn't matter who's in front of you. You're still calling it with Smoltz expertly. You guys are a great listen, but Ohtani going deep into the playoffs, a World Series. And obviously, you got the Yankees on the other side in terms of the New York market. But Lord, and however, as a Dodger guy calling games as much as you do for them, he's maybe the key to unlock some of the offensive woes that have beset the Dodgers over the last few Octobers.
Yeah, they hope so. They hope so. Like you were saying just before we started chatting, there's no blueprint for how to attack him, but there's also no standard that he's laid out there for how he's going to perform in the postseason. I know the WBC, I know a day like yesterday, but let's see. Postseason's different. It's different in how you're going to be pitched. There have been times this year where he's not been disciplined and has looked human for stretches where he's not getting anything to hit and he still chases. And, he's probably going to be attacked more that way once the postseason gets here. Like the more this happens, the less they're going to give him to hit. So can he be disciplined to not try and be the hero? We don't know. It's the first time that he's ever been in this situation. So it's kind of uncharted territory. But, what I've seen, Rich, the last week or so, like they scored the 20 runs yesterday. That was the 5th straight game where they've scored at least 8. And before yesterday, Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman were not doing a whole lot during that stretch. And I think that's a big deal that they were still scoring those runs without those guys, because it makes it feel like the lineup is much longer than it has for a lot of the season, certainly longer than it's been in the recent early exits in the division series.
Well, in terms of the World Baseball Classic, we did see him pitch. We saw him close. We saw him against Trout. Is there any talk of him giving an inning to Roberts here or there in the playoffs in October, Joe?
I brought it up a few weeks ago, and it was kind of like, stop it. Like, no, they're not going to. I think you think of it this way. Can you imagine the Dodgers without Ohtani in the lineup right now? What happens if he goes out there and tries to pitch and something happens that brings that into question? Like you think about, could he be good pitching? Well, you don't know, but could he damage his ability to hit? You can't risk that. Now, that said, there have been injuries that have happened since then. He continues to work at it every day. As I understand it, he's not brought it up or pushed for it to pitch in the postseason or anything like that. I mean, I think that everybody can look at it and say, can dream of it and say, hey, this could happen, right? Like the timing of when the surgery was and the work he's been doing, it could happen. But you can also make a really good argument for why it shouldn't happen.
Joe Davis here on the Rich Eisen Show, fresh off of calling one of the most remarkable athletic performances anybody's seen, let alone on a diamond, of Shohei Ohtani doing what he did in Miami on Thursday right here on the Rich Eisen Show. You're zooming in from New Orleans because you're calling Eagles and Saints. What a game this is with you and Greg Olson, certainly off of the way the Eagles lost and the way the Saints have been playing. What do you feel is the key, or whatever you're hearing in terms of a conversation with Greg, or what you've picked up in any of the conversations you've had with Saints or Eagles prior to this broadcast, Joe?
I think the Saints, Rich, are as good of a surprise as there is in the NFL, what they're doing offensively. I'm sure you've given all the notes, but you got to go back to their own team in 2009 to find a team that scored this many points over the first 2 games. Just remarkable for an offense that last year looked really sluggish for much of the season. Clint Kubiak comes in, and they've been a machine through 2 games. One game against a bad defense, 1 game against a pretty darn good team in Dallas. So an offense that's looked unstoppable. Vic Fangio as the D coordinator in Philadelphia, 2 games, not very good. So that's, you're looking at the best offensive team in the NFL through 2 weeks against a defense for the Eagles that has not been good. They're giving up 7 yards per play through 2 games. That's the most in the NFL. So they got to figure things out, and they got to figure it out fast. Because with A.J. Brown out, I know it's one player, but that is a big deal. I don't know if the Eagles can keep up with what the Saints have been doing. The Eagles defense has to keep that offense in the game, keep them within striking distance to have a shot.
And bring people up to speed. Who are the teams that you've seen already in the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, week 1 we had Steelers, Falcons, and Falcons, it looked terrible. We're watching Monday night. It's like, oh, nice of you to show up now, right?
Yeah.
Terrible week 1. But and then week 2 was Colts, Packers, the Malik Willis show. So we're kind of due for a good game, Rich. We've had 2 close games. We're due a good game.
Well, I mean, nothing like the Superdome. Everybody's probably going through the swing oil today. You know what I mean? Getting ready for Sunday for this game. Certainly the way that they've started, they've got to be out of their minds in the Bayou.
Yeah,
Joe.
Yeah, I've actually never done a game here where they're going through a stretch like this. Like the folks should be fired up going into the game. Seems like each time I've come here, they've been scuffling or, they were an underdog in the game. But we just talked to Dennis Allen right before I hopped on with you, and he said we've always thought that if we're giving them a reason to be excited, this is the toughest place to play in the NFL. And I can't think of a better case to be made to the fan base to, hey, come support us. We deserve your support here. That place is going to be shaken. Yeah,
I was there the night it reopened, Joe, after Katrina with NFL Network. And that's the famous game where, Steve Gleason had his moment that is now, memorialized outside the stadium. And that is the loudest I've heard a building in the 22 seasons when that moment happened. And it is awesome. And hopefully you're going to see a good one between the Eagles and the Saints. Before I let you go, because you mentioned mystique with Ohtani. The best story you've heard around the ballpark about Ohtani that we might not know or should know, whether it's off the field, it's something he's done in the community, it's something that happened in the clubhouse, it happened that you saw, you called, you got one that's past your ear gate, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many, as you can imagine, and some of them take on like folk hero feeling, just like there's no way this can be possible. But front of mind would be a conversation I had yesterday that kind of built off a story that I had heard about his running, right? So he had never stolen more than 26 bases in a season. How do you go from 26 stolen bases to 51 and counting? When he gets to the Dodgers, Travis Smith, who's the Dodgers strength coach, he said the first time he met him, Shohei was out on the field running. This was in the winter at Dodger Stadium, and he went down there and chatted with him. And Shohei told him in that first conversation, I want to get faster this year. I want to steal more bases this year. So right away, they went to work trying to add speed, trying to set him up to do this. There's this machine that basically simulates a, running with a, what's the word I'm looking for? Thing behind you. What's the thing?
Parachute?
Yeah, exactly. Simulates the parachute behind you. He broke the machine. First time he gets harnessed into this thing, he snaps the cord. He's so explosive. So that's just a small little story in this journey that he says, I want to get faster, and then does get faster. And if you think he's just happened into 51 stolen bases, no, it's another example of a guy who throughout his career has found things, even though he's the greatest ever to do it, he's found little areas of his game to address and then specifically gone in and practiced those things and had the results come. So I think that he's just it's a wonderful example of somebody, and I said this yesterday, it seems crazy that he could be relatable to any of us, but we've all had those things that we've said we have a goal of and set a challenge in front of ourselves and then tried to go get it. He does that systematically throughout his career, and these stolen bases that he's done this year, another example of that.
And he hasn't pitched this year, and that's coming, Joe. I mean, that's coming. So it's kind of frightening for him to maybe apply what you just said. Hey, I want to get faster. hey, I want to do just fill in the blank when it comes to pitching, because I assume he will pitch again, right? Because a season like this, 50-50, many people will ascribe to it's because he wasn't pitching. He just had to hit and focus on hitting and didn't have the every fifth day and the rigors of all of that. You know that's coming. Joe, you know?
Yeah, he's going to pitch again. I don't think that we will ever see another 50-50 season. I don't think he's going to have another 50-50 season because I'm not sure you can steal 50 bases while you're also pitching. If there's anybody that can do something that we're saying you can't do, it would be him. But I think this season unique because of that. He's gone from being the hitter/pitcher like Babe Ruth to a hitter/runner like nobody we've ever seen. I don't know that you can be hitter, pitcher, runner all rolled into one, but hey, I guess I shouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, Joe, he's the guy that you thought you'd miss calling the action because he was too far away from the 50-50 mark, and he wound up with 51-51. You know what I mean? You were like that kid. You were like that kid in Seinfeld asking Paul O'Neill to hit 2 home runs in a game. You know what I mean? And like, you can't hit 2 home runs in a game. And then he does hit 3.
I know. So, hey, maybe, Rich, maybe we need to schedule. Maybe I need to ask off my NFL game next weekend to be in Colorado to call 60-60.
You can't put it past him, man. You know?
I mean,
it's Colorado, you know? Yeah. And when he does that, you know, we'll all turn around here in Los Angeles, make sure the ball doesn't hit us in the back of the head. Joe, great job calling this big game. And then, I look forward to your call with Greg on Sunday for Eagles Saints. Appreciate the time.
Thanks. Always good to be with you, man.
Right back at you. That's Joe Davis, lead play-by-play announcer for the Dodgers and also MLB on Fox. And on Sunday, Eagles and Saints. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern for free.